Donc, dans à peu près 45 minutes, Tara Mrakic va nous parler d'organisation de pratique, de planification de pratique. Mais d'abord, on va débuter avec Saadia Ashraf et Alia Palmer qui vont nous parler de tracés de passe. Donc, une formation destinée aux receveurs, sujet qu'on n'a pas du tout abordé encore depuis le début. Saadia est dans le monde du football depuis très longtemps déjà, au flag, au football contact aussi, très impliqué au niveau québécois et canadien aussi. Donc, Saadia, c'est à toi. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup à Alia de participer à tout ça. Et on vous laisse la parole. Merci.
Merci François. Merci à Football Québec aussi. Alors, je vais partager mon écran. So, hello everybody.
Ah, excuse-moi, Saadia, juste avant de commencer, j'ai oublié. La présentation va être en anglais, donc. Mais Saadia, Alia, tout ça et Tara comprennent très bien le français. Si vous avez des questions à la fin, on va prendre les questions à la fin. Vous pouvez les écrire dans le chat et puis après, on pourra vous répondre en français là, si vous avez une barrière avec la langue, là, mais n'hésitez pas pour la suite. Merci, c'est à vous.
All right, everyone can see the screen, I hope. We're good. Alia, you got that?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so what's that?
They were good.
Very good. All right. So good evening, everyone. As Francois mentioned, my name is Saadia Ashraf, and I'm here with Alia Palmer. We're going to talk about route running or poetry in motion. As many of you know, when you watch a receiver run a great route and you have a nice connection with the quarterback, it's just a beautiful thing to see. So just before getting started, just some introductions. So again, as mentioned a few times now, I'm Saadia Ashraf. I'm a high school math teacher. I've been coaching the John Abbott women's flag football team for 25 seasons now. I was the QB for the Montreal Blitz for the women's tackle football team for several years. And now I'm on the coaching staff. I was the QB for Team Canada women's tackle football for 2 world championships. And now I'm on the coaching staff as well there. This is me on the right, not this tall blonde person on the left.
Next up, we have me. So my name is Alia. I'm a physiotherapist in real life. I've been coaching with Saadia at John Abbott for 18 seasons. So she used to coach me and then dragged me into this whole football world, of which I'm very thankful for. So she also did get me into playing tackle football with the Montreal Blitz as well, where I played for 12 seasons with Saadia as my QB. And we also were very fortunate to play Team Canada together. I played for a couple of seasons as a receiver for Team Canada as well.
Okay, so let's get down to it. So we're going to talk about basic route running, just some coaching tips for any players looking to get into coaching, or any new coaches just getting into flag football, which is a fantastic sport, and there seems to be a boom in it right now, which is awesome. We've been waiting for that for some time now. So we're just going to look at what an effective route on offense looks like. We're going to talk about some do's and don'ts. And then Ali's going to talk about when to speed cut and when to do like a 90 cut or like a stick it route. And we should have some time for stemming, which is a bit more advanced, but we should have some time to cover that as well. All right, so let's get to it. We're going to look at some basic teaching points and also some drills as well. So, what does a good route look like, right? And there's so many aspects to running a great route, and so we're just going to talk about some do's. And we can spend about half an hour just talking about the start and the takeoff from the line of scrimmage. Everything starts at the start. So if we have a strong start, it's the beginning of a great pattern, but we're going to just kind of skim over that right now. We want to explode off the line of scrimmage at the snap, right? So that's a good start, but how does that happen? Well, I'm going to talk about this picture in just a moment. Every pattern has a break point or a cut point. So we want to have a low center of gravity at that point. We want to sink those hips through the break point where we're going to cut, whether it's a 45 or a 90 cut, or you're just doing a hook. And we want to stay on balance, right? We want to stay on balance. We want to stay in control of our body. We want to have a stable body position, and we want to stay compact. We want to have explosive movements and movements with purpose. We don't want to have extra arm movements just for the sake of it. So explosive movements, exploding off the line, and do use your arms. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that in the don't part as well, because we want to find a good balance of arm usage. So again, staying low at the cut, explosive movements, using your arms to break out of the cut is a good start, and just basics of good route running. So this picture, these are two former John Abbott receivers. I think at this point they were in their second year at John Abbott playing flag football. So they had one full year of Ali and I drilling into their heads how to run a pretty good route, and they were actually quite good, these two receivers. We see here they're starting, the ball's been snapped, and I love this picture because it's a really nice snapshot of both of these receivers starting. They're in time, they're in sync. We have good arm position right here, right? Good arm position here, almost like 90 degrees. They have a low shoulder level driving off the line. If we're playing tackle football, we would say like a low pad level. They're driving forward with their knees here, and these facial expressions are great too. She's really exploding off that line, right? So, this is just a pretty good picture I want to share with you. If we look at some don'ts, right? So now we're talking about, I was saying about using your arms, but we don't want to use them too much. So you may have heard of beating the drum. So you don't want to beat the drum when you're in the context of an actual offensive play, because if you beat the drum too much, it leads into the next point, which is taking too many steps. But it's important to practice this though. So when you're teaching getting low and sinking the hips, we can practice beating the drum, which is like pumping the arms, right? Pumping the arms. But in an offensive play, if we pump the arms too much at our break point or our cut point, we're going to end up taking too many steps, and we don't want to do that. What else we got? So we don't want to give ourselves away. So a lot of times, especially I coach high school as well, so we see these young flag football players that, you say, do a slant right, or you're going to do a 45, a post or a corner, and they might give it away with their eyes or their body position. So we want to teach them to always look the same on every route when the ball's about to be snapped. Here I put the word eager. As coaches, we have a playbook, or we have a bunch of plays that we use, and often we have a lot of our plays have a specific area for the quarterback to read. So athletes will pick up on that, and they'll go, oh, on this play, maybe I won't get the ball. But we have to, you never know what's going to happen on any given play. So we don't want them to be really eager body language on one play and kind of just ready to jog their route on the next play. So, always emphasize being the same in their stance at the beginning of every play. What we don't want to do also is slow down after the break. So again, I've seen this a lot, and actually all through high school and CJEP, that athletes will make their cut and then slow down. We want to teach always exploding after the break to gain separation from the defender. Now, when you're running routes on air, which is just running routes without defenders, we don't want to get into these bad habits of making our cut and then slowing down. We want to practice, even when there's no defenders, to cut and explode out of that cut and to go catch the football. Also slowing down when the ball is in the air. I'm not a receiver, and I've played receiver randomly here and there, and I don't know how receivers do it. It's fantastic. You're running, you're like bouncing while you're running, and you're trying to track the ball. So we need to teach them not to slow down, just to track the ball. But again, these things take practice. And we want to teach the receivers to, trust their legs. If they keep going, we want the quarterback to throw on the run, especially on those long routes. Unless you're doing something more advanced, like a back shoulder throw, the quarterback is usually told to lead our receivers. So just some things to remember, and I'm going to talk about this picture on the next slide, but just a few things to remember, that everything is a go or a fly until it isn't. And almost every route on offense has a break point, or a point where you make a cut. Unless you're doing like a one-step slant or a hitch pass, which you don't always do in flag football. But those three those first 3 or 4 steps or the first 4 to 6 yards should always look identical. We should be firing off the line. It should look like you're doing a fly or a go or a deep route every time. And then you break either whether it's 5 yards or 7 yards or at 90 to 45. So the defender will always think you're doing a go or a fly. Now, and it doesn't matter if the defense is playing zone or man-to-man or player-to-player defense. There's going to be a reaction. When you fire off the line and you're heading right for them, there's going to be some kind of reaction whether they're playing zone or not. So we want to make sure it's a go or fly up until the point that it isn't. You make some kind of break or some kind of cut. A good break or cut will involve the least change in speed, and this takes a lot of practice. And I've been playing with Alia for years, and these are things that and she still practices this. So these are things that doesn't matter what level you're at, these fine tuning will always take place. So this is what we're going for. The major break step is on the outside leg, and the last 2 points are pretty important. That we need to teach our athletes that everyone's route is important no matter what the offensive play call is. Again, a lot of our plays, we have a certain area of the field for the quarterback to read, or where the play side is happening, right? And the other receivers on the backside might not think they're important in that play, but you never know what's going to happen on any given play. So their route is important no matter what the call is. Maybe they're taking a defender with them. Maybe they're doing a crossing concept on another side, but their route is important. And that also, we want to teach them to expect and want the ball on every play. Doesn't mean they're a ball hog. It just means you never know. If they're open and the quarterback sees that, they're going to get the ball. They should want the ball in every play, and they will run their routes and be eager on every play. So they won't change anything whenever they're running any route on any play. Everyone's role is important. So I know this is a tackle football picture, but I love this picture of Odell Beckham Jr., right? Yeah. So I love this picture. I find it such a really nice snapshot of a nice break. He's breaking to his left, right? He's cutting on his right leg. He's very compact. He's leaning a bit to the left. He's very low. His knee here is almost touching the ground. That's how low he is. He has a nice stable knee position here. So here we have, some of you know, Annabelle Chevrier. She's a fantastic flag football and tackle football player. Again, we see she's very compact. She's cutting to the left in this first picture and cutting to the right in the second picture. And you see her knees in a really good stable position here. It's not bending towards the inside. In this picture especially, you can see she's almost sitting, right? That's how low she is to make her cut and go towards the right. All right, so we have some video. These are just some basic drills that help with getting low and sinking the hips. And we'll probably watch each video about 3 times because I know on Zoom there's a lag sometimes. So we'll do that. So the cone is set. This is Alia, so we can all watch Alia at work here.
Oh God,
so
let's not watch too closely.
We have the cones are at 5 yards apart, and at every cone, the receiver is going to break, get low, and pump her arms. Just to practice pumping the arms and getting low and then receiving a pass. So just, again, we're talking about beating the drum. This is what it is, but we wouldn't do this kind of movement in an actual offensive play. And you can add something to this. You can add a 90 cut. You can add a 45 cut. You can add, that's just the basic drill right there. And this is, some of you might know Maud Lacasse, who is actually a quarterback by trade, but she was a pretty good receiver for the Montreal Blitz for a couple of seasons. So it's the same thing again. She's sprinting, cutting at every cone, pumping the arms, and getting low. Okay. Here's a drill that's a little bit more intermediate. There's a bit more movement in here. So this is Jen St. Jean, also Montreal Blitz receiver. So she's, again, getting low at every cone. I would suggest maybe she would benefit more from bending at the hips and not at the back. But so we're just jogging through this. We're just going to play this one once because it's a pretty long one. So here's Alia. Now you don't have to do figure eights around the cones. You can adjust it how you want, but we noticed that she's getting low, pumping her arms. There's Genevieve again, pumping the arms, really trying to get those feet going. Getting a football, then we can pick up the speed. So we have Alia on the next bit, picking up the speed a little bit. Getting low around each cone. And then whipping her head around quickly to get a football. And we'll just run this through the end. And we're gonna watch Jen make
a pretty stellar catch, right?
Pretty fantastic catch. Here she goes on the cone, and then, whoop, there we go. Good job, Jen. All right, so that's just another idea for a drill that you could do to help with cutting and breaking and getting low. All right, so Ali's gonna take it from here.
All right, guys. So we're going to talk a little bit about.
I'm presenting. One sec. Sorry, Alia. There we go. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. There's loads of different cuts out there. There's a bunch of different things. I mean, honestly, when we were putting this presentation together, we were like, there's just so much to talk about and nowhere near enough time. So what we did is we tried to choose a couple of cuts that are very similar, but that we really like to differentiate depending on what type of play we're doing. So we want to be able to give you guys just an idea of the difference between these two cuts and when and why you might use them. So a 90 cut is that sort of traditional cut that I think we've all learned when we first start playing football, either a 5 and in, 5 and out, 10 and in, 10 and out. And it's really that square cut. So you're really just kind of breaking everything off right at 90 degrees. The whole thought behind a 90-degree cut is that you're making that cut or that break that Saadia was talking about at much closer to the desired depth of your actual pattern. So if you're trying to go for 5 yards and out, you're going to make your cut at about 4.5 yards, because it's just one quick step, powering off the outside leg and coming across. So it should be a real quick in and a quick out. Like we said, trying to have the least amount of diminish or decrease in speed while you're going into your cut, and then also when you're exploding out of it. A speed cut is a little bit different because we will be cutting a little bit earlier. So in a speed cut, it's not necessarily a banana. It's not a big banana rounding out pattern. We are going to make two kind of distinct cuts. And the whole purpose behind this cut is to get somewhere faster. So as we move on here, the whole why as to why you would choose one or the other. We like to use the 90-degree cut to create space between receivers. So it does give you a little bit more movement and depth between your receivers, so that makes it much harder for a defense to cover. Anytime you can spread out your offense, you're making it that much harder for the defense to manage and have to cover you guys. A speed cut is a little bit different in the sense that we want to really just get somewhere fast. So if we've all gone through math at some point, Saadia is a math teacher, but I like to use this little reference. We all know that the hypotenuse of the triangle is quicker than it is to get to the two sides of it, or is shorter in distance. So we will definitely be shaving even if it's a couple of milliseconds off of our cut. That's the whole goal, is just to speed up the play. And I think the difference between the two, and we'll show you guys some examples in a second of when you might use these cuts. But a 90-degree cut is also used in situations where we maybe want to draw the play out a little bit. So if we have a halfback play and we're doing some either a fake or a handoff or something in the backfield that's taking a little bit of time for the play to develop, we don't want to be doing a speed cut and getting somewhere super fast. We actually want to slow the play down to a certain degree so that we can actually give our QB time to carry out some stuff in the backfield and make sure that our receivers are still going to be around for her once that play is over. So these are kind of the two different scenarios in which we might use them. I think a lot of the time, so when we first have athletes come out and they're in their first year at John Abbott, we really, like Saadia was saying, we have certain plays where, you know, they're designed a certain way. So a lot of the times at a beginner level, so either maybe in high school when you're first starting off coaching some athletes, or like I said, for us in first year athletes at John Abbott, we'll really kind of tell them exactly what type of pattern we want to do. So on this play, you're running, it's a 90 out, or at this play, it's a speed cut. And we'll really emphasize that. As those athletes develop and can get a better understanding of when and why they might want to use these different routes or these two different patterns, we tend to kind of let them make the decision a little bit more. So once you start to get a good vibe between your quarterback, your receiver, everybody's starting to get on the same page. Your receivers are really understanding when these different routes might be pertinent in a play, then we trust them to sort of make that decision or that adjustment, depending on maybe where the defender is or down in yardage and how much space we need to get. So I think that that's something that we kind of give the leeway to our athletes as they develop and really get a better understanding of the play and when they might want to use these. I think something that we always stress when we're coaching that is really important if you're just starting out as a newer coach, and maybe it's just been drilled into your head that you have a bunch of plays on a bunch of play cards and you just kind of sort of mindlessly follow what's ever on your play card. Our goal when we're teaching our athletes is really to give them a good understanding of why they're doing certain things. So, because I think if you can empower your athletes with that knowledge of why they're doing a certain cut at a certain distance or at a certain yardage, or why they really want them to speed up the play on this, they'll get a better understanding overall of your offense, how it's running. And I think that just leads to a more smooth running offense on all fronts. So that's something that for us is really important, is to make sure that we empower our athletes with that knowledge so that they can also just get better football knowledge all around. And then they'll be able to pick up on other plays a lot faster and really just understand the mechanics of our offense. And moving right along, I think we have some clips. So this is Annabelle again. Really, really awesome cut that she has, because she is quick into her cut and quick out of it. There's no wasted movement, no wasted time. You just see her plant that left foot. We'll watch it again. Just a quick plant, and there is just no stutter steps at this cut. So right as she comes up here, bam, one step, and she's out of her cut. So the least amount of slowdown as we're doing that, and we're really getting a nice, there's not a big change in speed as she's making that cut, plus the angle. So this is something as a physio that I always tend to look at in terms of knees and things. Lots of women athletes, young female athletes tear ACLs. And if you can have a nice, solid, strong knee on your cut, chances are you're going to be much better off and much more safe. So sinking those hips, really using our glute muscles, getting low and powering out of those cuts is also going to be beneficial to your knees in the long run. So really nice cut on her behalf. I think we have another video as well of a speed cut coming up. So that was your 90-degree cut. Here's Maude again. She's doing a speed cut. Watch for her coming on the left-hand side of your screen. Maybe saw, yeah, thanks. You can make it big. We'll see her coming out. So two distinct cuts. So she's got one, we'll watch it again. And right here, she's got cut number 1, 2, boom, boom, 2 steps. And she's kind of just making that cut a little bit more sharp, getting to where we want her to be a little bit faster than if she was running that 90 and taking that full pattern out to a square route. So you can see those two distinct cuts instead of like banana-ing it out. So there's number 1, and then she's just going to take a step and then quick off that outside leg again. And still getting low, using those arms, and no real wasted movement, no stutter steps into the cut, running full speed, 1 step, 2 steps. There's no lost movement or wasted time there. Good. And I think next is some drill, or is it another video here?
This is not another video.
Oh, this one. So this is me. This is where I get to harp on myself, because Alia makes little stutter steps on this one. So this is something that you would want to improve upon if ever you are, videotaping games or practice or watching film. So you can see here, I definitely slow down going into this cut. So to me, that's a little less good, and it's something that we could definitely work on with our athletes. So you want to make sure that you're just getting more of a hard step out of, this is a 90, but there's too many little steps there for my liking. So the 90-degree cut wasn't all that bad, but the actual getting in and out of the cut was a little bit slow. There was a little bit of a slowdown in speed getting into the cut. The explosion out of it is not so bad, but going into it is a little bit slow in comparison to some of those other cuts that we saw. So just little things that you can kind of pick apart when you're looking at some film, if you do get a chance to take some film of your athletes. I think we have one more video. Yeah, this is another speed cut. So this is Jen again, Jen St. Jean, doing a nice little speed cut here. And again, she does a really good job. No real wasted movement. There you go. Good. And arms are staying compact. That's the other thing Saadia was talking about too. We're not flailing our arms. We're keeping them close to our body, really, really staying nice and low, compact, and not wasting any movement there. So that's good. We'll see it one more time if you want. There we go. Cut one, cut two. So really quick, sharp cuts right off that outside leg. All right, so when do you use the speed cut? When do you use the 90-degree cut? When are these pertinent in different plays? So we've got a few plays here that we'll show you and we can bring up. All right, so here's a real basic one. You've got a go or a fly route from your wide out there on the outside, and your two inside receivers are doing outs, but one is doing a speed cut. Sorry for our little diagram. We could not figure out how to make sharp angles. So it looks like a banana, but don't do a banana. That's not the cut. That's a speed cut. So that middle inside receiver, she's doing a speed cut versus the inside receiver right next to the center, to the right of the center. She's doing a 90-degree cut. The purpose for this is that if we have our wide out doing a fly, she's vacating that spot. So she's going downfield. She's probably taking her defender along with her. So we want to kick out that inside receiver as quickly as possible so that we can also have an outlet for our quarterback. Chances are in this play, our quarterback might be rolling out to the right side. So if we are vacating a spot and taking a defender with us, let's get the ball out to the outside as quickly as possible. And it's always nice to have an outside throw towards the sidelines, because if your QB does her job and leads her receiver keeps running her pattern, either the receiver catches it or the ball's out of bounds. So you're keeping it out of the hands of the defense. The reason why we have that sort of most receiver close to the center running a 90 out is that we want to create separation between those two outs. So we want to make sure that we're not making it easy for a defender to pick up two offensive players or two receivers. So she's going to take a little bit more time getting out on that pattern, and you'll see a nice separation happen. So it just also makes it a lot easier for your quarterback to be able to see the holes in the defense when you actually spread out your players a little bit more. On next. So this is a post wheel. So again, that wide out's she's doing a post this time, and this is a bit of a timing play. So in this case, you really want to make sure that your timing is good. It's a crossing route, kind of trying to confuse the defense as much as possible. And the thing is that it takes a little bit of time to develop this play. So in flag, we have an uncontested rusher running at your quarterback. And there are a lot of good rushers out there. And so your quarterback, your poor QB, doesn't have a ton of time to keep the ball in her hands. So she's got to release that ball as best and quickly as she can. So we don't want to waste time. That inside receiver, if she was doing a 90 out and then a 90 cut to go up, that's a lot of wasted time. Whereas if we can have her kind of do that speed cut to get out and then quick up, she's going to get to that spot a lot faster, and at least we'll give our QB a little bit of a chance to pop up that ball and be able to complete the play.
Okay, the next three play, well, they're all, this is a concept with a post, an arrow, which is this slant out, I guess you can call it, and an in over here. So I'm just gonna show you the next three slides. It's along with a post. So it's the same three patterns, but different receivers running them. So it's the concept that we run sometimes with the speed cut. And you can talk about the depth here, how deep do you want these players to go, but we have a crossing concept here with a post over top. And where we have to be careful is, let's say something like this, where you have this inside receiver doing the arrow, and we got to watch depth. So we don't want this receiver to get past a certain depth, and maybe this player is doing the in maybe at 6 or 7 yards, but they're crossing with a post in the middle. And then over here, the last one, we have the crossing concept happening on the outside with the speed cut from the wide receiver coming in and the arrow going to the outside. So the depth is important, but on something like this is an example of where you might want to use a speed cut. Okay, so I don't know if we have time. François, how are we doing for time? François, are you there? Right.
Hello. He's eating his supper.
Alia, go ahead. Why don't you?
Yeah, I will. I think we'll go into it. So stemming is something that I think we tend to see maybe a little bit more in tackle football, or at least that's when I was introduced to it. And I think it is possibly used more, but honestly, it's something that has served me well. I was never a super speedy receiver, as everyone who knows me knows very well. So I had to kind of make do with what I had and figure out ways to run good routes so that I could get open. And this was one way that really helped me out. So what is stemming, or what is a stem? So the stem of a route is the direction of a receiver's release off that line of scrimmage that puts you or puts her in the most advantageous position. So the whole idea is that normally we are told, you know, run patterns straight up here, we make our cut, and that's the way we kind of envision it, or that's the way we see it on a play card. Stemming, as we'll show you guys in a second through some pictures, is a little bit different. So a stem is sort of the vertical part of the receiver's route before they make the break. So before you actually make that cut, this is kind of how you're going to line yourself up in front of a defender. So why would you use this? And the whole idea is to manipulate the defender in front of you to put them in a poor position. So you're trying to get your defender off balance so that they won't be able to defend that route as good as, or as well as possible. So we always want to be on an even playing field when it comes to defenders. We don't ever want to let them have good positioning on us. So I think the next picture, we can explain it a little bit. If a deep defender lines up right in front of you as a receiver, we used a post just to kind of give you guys a bit of an idea here. But let's say as a receiver, I know I have to go inside. That's my route. I'm running a post. I'm running inside across the middle of the field. If the D-man is, or my defender's lined up in front of me, then the whole idea behind running a pattern, and as Saadia was saying at the beginning, so important to fire off the line and really take those first few steps always equally the same. You always want to sell a go route when you're playing offense as a receiver. So you're going to run, you want to attack. This is your chance on offense to actually almost be like a bit of a defender and attack. You want to attack your defender, run right at them. I don't know if anybody's ever played defense. I mean, if we've mostly, if you've been a receiver, it's one thing, but if you play defense, it's a little unnerving when an offensive player or receiver is running straight at you, because you're kind of going, am I backing up? Are they coming to me? Where are they going to cut? Think of it as an offensive player, we actually have the advantage. We know where we're going. So we have the advantage over the defense, but if you can scare them just a little bit, make them take a few steps back, attack them. So run right at them. So in this case, if we're doing a post in, our defenders in front of you, I like that little red.
I didn't write that. So
I was like, is the D-man backing? I guess so. But anywho, so yeah, so in this case, you wanna just get inside as fast as possible. So you're running right at the defense. In this case, you're not really stemming. Our next slide is when you would probably want to use it the most, would be if your defense is lined up to your inside shoulder. So on the inside of you. And I can remember thinking this like way back when I first started playing, I'm like, oh shoot, the defender's lined up right where I want to go. Like that's where I need to make my cut. And you don't want to run your pattern right in front of a defender and make it really, really easy for her to cover you. So this is what we would call a stem. So that initial kind of step inside so that you then square your hips up to the defender. So now Go back one if you want. There we go. Okay, so now we're actually squaring up to our defender. So you're still running straight at her. So it just gives you that advantage to then make a quick sort of, once you square up, then you can take a quick step outside and then come back on your pattern. So it can be either a quick step, it can be a head fake, a little shoulder deke, something to just kind of shimmy that defender a little bit, make them think you're going outside, and then come back in. So again, you're just trying to line up or get yourself square in front of the defender. In the last case, stemming, I don't know if you'd really want to use it so much in this case, because if your defender's lined up outside shade, then you're not really worried about them. If you're quick enough, you can just say, well, hey, I'm going to make my cut and I'm getting inside. So this instance, I wouldn't necessarily use it unless you really, really want to try to sell. Like, again, if you're not maybe the fastest, you might actually want to take a step outside, line your defender up, take a quick step back out, and then come back in on your pattern just to get them thinking you're going outside or you're doing an outside route. But in most cases, if you're quick enough, you're going to make that cut before the defender can even get there. So stemming is more, it's used in certain situations to try to give you the most advantageous positioning on that defender so that you can run your pattern as best as possible and get to the point where you need to be for your quarterback to get you the ball.
I'm just going to add that if you do decide to stem on this, the goal might be to turn the defender's hips to the outside before cutting back inside, which would get you
exactly,
just depending on what everyone else is doing, right? Everyone else has a route as well. It's not just two people running those routes. So yeah, just one last thing. So why are we emphasizing teaching a good route and teaching how to run it well early in an athlete's flag career? And besides the fact that we want to have everyone on the same page, running the same routes the same way, and running a sound offense. A lot of times in high school and CJEP, you might not get a QB that's experienced or knows or played all throughout high school if you're getting them in CJEP, or maybe it's their first year playing in high school, and we just put somebody in that position that we think would be would learn the quarterback position and wanted to coach them through high school, right? But they're not going to be experienced all the time. So if you're teaching your receivers to run their routes properly, we're putting that quarterback in the best situation and the offense in the best situation to succeed, while the quarterback can learn, how to run plays and who to read and how to throw. So teaching your receivers to run routes properly at an early stage will just help your quarterback and help your offense succeed as well. And that's pretty much it. So I just want to thank you.
That's it for us. Hopefully yes, thank you everybody for attending. It's awesome to see so many people here and involved. It's really, really nice.
Merci beaucoup. J'ai allumé mon micro cette fois, c'est beaucoup mieux.
Sorry,
s'il y a des questions, n'hésitez pas. Moi, j'aurais peut-être une question pour vous rapidement. Souvent, au niveau cégep, on voit beaucoup de joueuses qui arrivent, puis systématiquement, les cotes à 90 degrés, c'est beaucoup des bananes. Vous en avez beaucoup parlé. Quelle est la première chose sur laquelle on peut travailler avec une joueuse pour qu'elle arrête, ou en tout cas que sa cote soit plus ferme ou soit plus agressive pour régler ce problème-là? Quelle est la première chose qu'on voudrait fixer là, si on avait... C'est peut-être pas évident à répondre, là, mais je vous laisse une chance.
Peut-être si elle fait trop comme genre une banane, peut-être pas assez bas, peut-être trop haut quand elle fait son cut. Et puis on a des receveurs comme ça, j'en habite aussi. When they're about to make their cut, they kind of step up and then they round out their cut. But so peut-être c'est ça. Peut-être c'est juste la pratique, peut-être t'es pas coaché comme il faut au niveau scolaire non plus. Ça arrive souvent parce que c'est tellement court la saison, alors des fois ça donne pas pour enseigner beaucoup comment courir un tracé comme il faut.
Ben, c'est ce que j'allais dire aussi pour peut-être aider la situation. Des fois, nous, au début, là, si on commence, puis il y a vraiment des joueuses qui ne savent pas vraiment comment faire des tracés, on va mettre des cônes. Puis c'est un cône ici, tu coupes à ce qu'on a autour, puis tu as 2 cônes entre lesquels il faut que tu cours sur ta ligne droite après. Fait que tu n'as pas le droit de dévier. Puis c'est sûr que, tu sais, on ne veut pas toujours avoir des cônes parce qu'on ne veut pas que les filles regardent des cônes tout le temps en faisant leur cut. Mais au moins, elles peuvent gager un petit peu à quel point qu'elles devront couper. Puis c'est vraiment, tu coupes autour du cône. Puis là, il faut que tu finisses entre ces 2 cônes-là où est-ce que tu as peut-être 1 verge de distance entre les deux pour qu'elles ne font pas une banane puis qu'elles continuent en ligne un petit peu en angle.
Il est beau, 45, ouais.
Ouais. Ça, peut-être pour éviter là, les bananes, ça serait peut-être ça. Puis juste travailler même juste des petits pas, même pas un tracé au complet, mais juste tu prends un pas, puis tu coupes. Puis tu prends un pas, puis tu coupes, juste pour travailler cette 90 degrés et non faire le tracé au complet puis attraper le ballon. On commencerait peut-être juste avec un pas pour s'assurer que tu le fais bien. Puis après ça, accumuler, le mettre tous ensemble après.
C'est excellente réponse. Merci beaucoup. Je ne vois pas d'autres questions, donc merci encore une fois. Merci Saadia, merci Alia. Très, très intéressant. Et en ce qui nous concerne, nous, on va poursuivre dans 1 minute. En fait, on va commencer avec Tara Mrakic qui va nous parler d'organisation de pratique.